One of the things when you're looking to achieve change is to say, what am I trying to do? Because one of the things I can guarantee is that once you start to try and implement a change, there'll be lots of distractions. And you start off trying to do one thing, then lots of other good ideas will come along, and you start chasing those. And you'll easily lose sight of the goal that you set off for. I remember my early days in consultancy working for a sort of very dour northern person. I used to work very hard, very diligently, and I'd go back to him at the end of the day telling him this great list of things that I'd done and worked really hard. And he always had this one question for me at the end of the day. But Frank, what have you achieved? And that's when I used to realize that what I'd done was waste my day chasing lots of good ideas that had nothing to do with the goal that I set out for. So having a criteria for success is important. And so let's see what I'm promising you that I'll try and do. Should be more aware of the principles of change. And hopefully you'll have some more confidence than you have already in your ability to lead others in change. And also being in the health area, you're going to experience a lot of change as well. So you'll be more aware of what's happening around you when these change initiatives take place. So that's the minimum level. And on top of that, I hope that some of you will take an interest and actually sort of look into this further, because it is a subject that's well written about. Every man and his dog claims to be an expert on change, and the library's full of books, and you can spend the rest of your life reading them. And the other thing I'd recommend is experiment with it. Even if it's trying to change your mates down the pub to change the sort of drink they prefer or something, trying to manipulate people into doing something different is an interesting process. So, what is change? Just as I said, manipulating people to change their behavior. Because most of life is about people. Yes, you get involved with all sorts of complicated equipment and so on, but when you're using it, there's different processes, procedures, environments you have to install. But it's getting the people on board that's important. And that's why I differentiate between manipulating people to change their behavior and what I call real success, when you actually change their beliefs. And perhaps an example of this is something I do declare I don't do this in reality, but if I hold you up in the street with a gun and say, hand me your money, you'll do it, you'll comply with my request because you're forced to. But the minute I walk away, you wouldn't have any interest in giving me more money. But if I come along to you and tell you what great charities I support and how good it is and how worthy it is, there's a chance that I might actually change you to believing in supporting that, and you do it on an ongoing basis. And that's what I'd suggest to you, that some forms of change that you see is where people try and impose a change and just force people into change. It's always doomed for failure, because the minute you take the threat away, that change fails as well. So successful change, you actually change people's belief, they want to go along with you. Why is it important? As we said, most of you are going to be involved in the health service. Change is important to us all. The progress that's happening in the health service, the number of people that depend on you, we're always hearing about hospitals moving and different environments and new things being built. Change is just part of the way of life. But it's interesting that one of the great gurus of change, for those of you that do start researching it, was a guy called Deming. So I'm saying to you it's important, and he's quoted as saying, it's not necessary to change. But what he actually said, well, it's not necessary to change because survival's not mandatory. You might have guessed he's an American with a phrase like that. But it is important to realize that you can have the diehards. And as I said, I've been playing this game for a long time. And I remember the days of working with people like British Leyland, as it was then, and went on to Rover Cars, and people saying, well, if you expect us to do that, you shouldn't be in business. How right they were. So adapting to change is something that even in the health service we have to move with. But if we do it right, it can be a benefit to us as well. We can all enjoy our lives because change gives us something new to do. The other thing I'd like to pick up with you is think about what I did to you then. When I put that first slide up, I was actually misleading you. And then I show you something different. So how does that make you feel about me when I lose my integrity with you? And that's one of the things that can cause resistance to change. If you're not honest and straightforward with people, and they start to doubt what you're doing, that causes uncertainty and makes the change process even more difficult. So honesty and integrity, working with people straightforwardly,